Hello and welcome to the video for section 3 of chapter 4. We're going to talk about very briefly the rationing function of prices. So for those of you that don't know what rationing is, it's basically when people are carefully doling out in very particular amounts scarce resources. Okay, so people do this when they budget their spending every week or every month based on their income. You might do this with your time. You might ration your time if you're good with time management. But those are some examples of rationing. But it's basically when we talk about rationing with prices, it's what happens when the synchronization or the bringing together of decisions, the coming together of decisions of buyers and sellers leads to an equilibrium price. This is basically happening because of the rationing function of prices. Okay, so there are some other ways of rationing, non-price rationing methods. So one is rationing by queues, or in other words, waiting in line. So you probably saw this and maybe even participated yourself in this when Popeyes came out with its chicken sandwich. All right, so there was some price rationing going on, but the sandwiches themselves were also being rationed via waiting in line, right? So the nice thing about price rationing is that it makes it allows the items to go to the people that value them the most. And this, to some degree, also happens with queues, right? So people that found the chicken sandwich valuable enough to wait in line did so, and those that didn't find it valuable enough did not bother waiting in line. So that's a good example of rationing by queues. Another method of rationing is through random assignment. So this happens with a lot of times with charter schools, right? So there might only be, say 500 available seats at a charter school, but maybe 1,000 people want their child to go to school there, and so charter schools will frequently just use a lottery assignment, randomly assign among those 1,000 people to the 500 available seats. Okay, so these are different methods of rationing. Now, here's a policy example involving California and the drought. So we've already seen one example related to this, but here's another one for the rationing aspect. And so in California, governors and local officials and such decided that they needed to reduce consumption of water by 25%. So a lot of cities, such as San Jose, did this using an electronic coupon to ration water. So each customer could only get so much water, right? And once they hit their limit, they were cut off. So that's an example of a coupon rationing system. Another example of this would be the gas shortage in the 1970s, when gas stations were limiting customers to, say, 5 or 10 gallons per visit. So that's another example of rationing via coupons. They don't have to be physical coupons or even digital. It can just be a quantity limit. But now, again, the essential role of rationing, it basically arises out of the presence of scarcity, right? So like I said, people rationing scarce items so that they can make sure they have at least what they need, given the issue of scarcity. So let's real quick talk about price versus non-price rationing mechanisms. So the nice thing about price rationing is that it leads to the most efficient use of resources. And this is because basically anybody that finds the item to be more valuable than the price will purchase it, and those that find the item to be less valuable than the price won't purchase it. And so the item goes to the people who value it most, and so it ends up being efficient. Whereas with random assignment, for example, that doesn't happen. Right? There could be it could be that the person who is looking to get their child into charter school is basically right on the fence between charter school and public school, and they just happen to get lucky and get drawn in the lottery to send their child to the charter school. Meanwhile, the person that values that charter school the most, who'd be willing to pay a really high price if that was how the seats in the charter school were rationed, they would be willing to pay a really high price for that. But because the rationing mechanism is random assignment, they may end up not getting a seat for their child, and so you don't have the same kind of thing where, as with prices, the people that value the most end up getting it, and the people that value the least don't necessarily get it. So, that's sort of the difference there between price and non-price rationing. So we would prefer price rationing since it leads to efficient outcomes. Okay, that was a very brief section, but that's the section on price rationing. I'll see you in the next video for section 4.